Hello and welcome. Today we've got Ian Clark, and we're going to be talking about the global immune crisis and the rise of the human shield. But just before we begin, I want to say that we're on YouTube. Very happy to be back on YouTube, and to respect YouTube's guidelines, we're just going to say that everything is for educational and entertainment purposes. Do your own research. We're not financial or health advisors. This is to explore the space, open opinions and speculations. Again, do your own research. But Ian, thank you so much for joining me. How are you, and what have you been up to?
Well, we've been going through some very heavy duty testing patterns in our life. Which is really good because it's like you're going to find out how strong your building is if you're in a hurricane. And as the hurricane, builds up, which is the hurricane in this world that we're dealing with, goes to a tropical storm category 1 through 5. Once you're a category 5, you're going to know if that foundation is strong, if that house is built properly, because otherwise you get blown away in the hurricane. And so this has been an incredible year, 2025. And so we've been tested to the max. And I've learned a lot during this time and seen where the deep roots and the foundations are, so we can share that with people.
Absolutely. Now, what is the global immune crisis that we're going through right now?
Well, it's like your body, right? Let's just use your body as an example, and then we'll expand that right out to the global situation. So in your body, your immune system is working silently. And then little symptoms will come up if you're immune compromised. You might end up with a disease or some really acute or chronic symptom that reveals that there's something wrong, but you have to know, because it's this silent thing that happens in the background that is entirely through your whole body is an immune system. And you have to be fortified so that you are not going to become subject to the things that are attacking you, like from all the electromagnetic pollution, all the radio frequencies, all the pollution in the air, all the different types of foods that are out there, from genetically modified organisms to stuff that is sprayed with every chemical in the world, to making sure your food is clean, making sure you're detoxifying your body. All those things are tied in. So now let's take it to a national look. What about the nation you're living in? What is the immune system like in that nation? How permeable is it? How invaded is it? What kind of immigration things are happening? What are the different cultures that are coming in that could potentially give rise to a problem within the nation? Because now you've got an internal problem that, hey, where did that come from? That we just spent the last 30 years letting all these people come in. I don't know, all these different cultures. And so each country has a spirit of that country. That country manifests that spirit, and it's the spiritual culture of the country. It has a certain manner of life, a certain spiritual belief, a certain economic power, and so on. And so then you take it out to a global, which we'll call, I don't necessarily like the word global, but let's call it international, where you have an international immune system guarding the country from country, keeping things together but separated, but yet unified. And when you have countries coming against countries, what did you see in the Second World War? You saw the incredible brutality of human beings against human beings that was just unconscionable. What happened there, involving tens of millions of people sacrificed for what? For what? How did that happen? What was with the greed and the avarice? What was with the theft of all the assets in Europe? Why did people join in, and why did they make excuses as to why they should get involved in the war or stay out of the war? So the immune system was super compromised at that time. And everybody knows that there's a potential of a World War III. Everybody's talking about it. So what are you individually doing for yourself? Because you're not in everyone else's universe, you're in your universe. So it's a universal immune system all of a sudden for you as the individual, and for your family, your loved ones, your colleagues, the people who love you, the people you love, the people you're responsible for. And Nicholas, you're responsible for a lot of people. I am responsible for a lot of people. We have a lot of people listening, looking for something that makes perfect common sense is logical, and they can then make their own decisions based upon sharing information. So that goes spiritual, mental, emotional, and then physical. So we look at it from every layer. What's the spiritual immune system of the United States or the UK or Canada or Mexico or Europe or Asia, right? Or Australia? Everybody's watching each other's countries, and the news systems are promoting propaganda. We know that most of it's propaganda because it's all about mind control. So if you are mind controlled individually without knowing it, you're going to be then brought under subjection to something that you may not like or that may not be in your best interest. So your immunity, your personal immunity, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, is absolutely critical past stuff. Because as we're heading into this oncoming, as we can see it building up, it is definitely building up. Like if you lived in certain parts of the world right now, you would already be suffering massively.
Mm-hmm.
But I live in Canada, you're living in the UK and down in the US sometimes. And so we're very protected from the immune systems of the nations we're living in, right? Now, you individually, you are responsible for you. I can't build your immune system for you. You can build your immune system. You can't build mine. I have to build mine. So we're sharing data, intel, procedures, protocols, tools, elements that each individual can now fortify themselves for what is coming and what is actually already here. Because I'm not even looking at what's coming. Now, how much is, for example, 5G towers? And I'm not going to go into the conspiracy thing. It's not important. We all know that there's 5G towers everywhere now.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why couldn't we stay 4G with a larger tower, which was also very difficult to deal with from the radio frequencies, but now it's right up close.
Yeah.
Because all of us want super download speeds, and we are very impatient if it's not downloading it right away, right? We're streaming. So why do we need that? What's that doing to our mental, emotional, physical immune system? Right?
Absolutely.
And spiritual.
I mean, you're right. There was, when you were talking about the countries and how there's tension between cultures and things like that, and people got involved. Definitely, that's part of conditioning the program of humanity, and divide and conquer tactics, which is poison to the brain. Yeah. But the Third World War that you mentioned that people were talking about, I think it's more frequency attacks, like what you just mentioned now.
Yes.
And I think everyone is responsible for themselves. Like you said, I think that's the most sovereign freedom thing that you can advise everyone to take their own responsibility. And you and I are here to spark curiosity within others. They have free will. It's up to them to decide if they want to ask questions and what they want to do with themselves. The EMFs and the Bluetooths and the Wi-Fi's, in my opinion, from what I've researched, it's definitely poisoning our bodies, and most of all, disconnecting our intuition from us. They don't want us to make decisions based on our intuition, and a lot of this esoteric and spiritual stuff overlaps with our healths. It overlaps with the reality we live in day to day. It overlaps with and affects the relationships that we have and the choices that we make. And they want us to be disconnected. They want us to be disconnected from the Christ field or the source field, which is our intuition, which is a feeling that we get that allows us to know before the brain understands. And they want us to be disconnected to become dependent on their program that they want us to believe or be programmed to, with their algorithm. So detoxing the body from all of the processed foods that we eat, from toxins in our body, plays a big factor in strengthening our immune system and our gut feeling. you know?
Mhm. Yeah, totally. Hey, you are responsible to make sure that you become acutely aware without becoming a health nut or rocket science, just common, simple sense. Over the last 21 years, I've learned all of the top level things. I had to discard everything that wasn't top level because there's a lot of good, great, greater, greatest stuff, right? And the greatest is the top. Everything down here is kind of cool, but it doesn't cut it when you have access to the top level thing. So you talked about radiation. Radiation is actual real particles that are able to communicate from a cell tower to an iPhone. And boy, dude, everybody's on the smartphones now. So you also mentioned that there is an intel in those frequencies that can be very quickly embedded because our bodies are receptors. Our bodies are antennas. Our pineal glands are antennas. When our pineal gland gets calcified from taking fluoride into our body, which is in all the water, in toothpaste, or wherever these insidious things are there, there's other things that will calcify the pineal gland as well. So our antenna gets plugged up, the dumbing down. When I went through the process of decalcifying my pineal gland through very specific protocols that are so simple, everything changed. Now you can start to see, oh, whoa, I'm questioning things. Like, what is about that? What about that? But we are all like, what person do you know right now? Who do you know that is not having one of these with them at all times?
Everyone's got one.
I don't know anybody, right? And including me. I got two of them.
I think you got two. Yeah, I was going to say.
So, and I have, Wi-Fi, I've got all that stuff. So what I found out is how to completely shield myself and how to convert that frequency that is embedded into beneficial frequencies. It's a quantum upgrade. And that quantum upgrade is now completely changed the game. I'm in my 68th year. We've talked about this before. I am 10 times healthier than I was 20 years ago. I'm significantly healthier than I was when I was 21. We're talking about mobility, power, energy, stamina, brain power, digestive system, respiratory, circulatory, endocrine system, autonomic nervous system, all dialed in at a really high level because I was shown all the things that I had to add in and do, which I realized, hold it, my immune system is not just worrying about getting an infection. Right? That's just the lower level of it. It's about getting protected and shielded from absolutely everything coming at us from every element, 360 degrees around us. You just think about all the frequency vibrations that are coming through, that we could pick millions of channels on this and watch now. Billions of videos that are streaming every day. And all that's going through us and having an effect on us, unless we find out how to shield ourselves. And so when you physically shield yourself with actual real physical things, it changes the game completely. And I can't show up like this if it wasn't real, because I can't pretend. You can't pretend anything, right? If your cognitive decline is there, it's going to show up. Mm-hmm. If I'm physically compromised and I've got pain and I'm stiff and sore and miserable and retired like a normal person in their 68th year, and yet I'm one of the very few who are not like that. And there's people like that out there, for sure. There's healthy people at 68. There's healthy people at 78. What I've learned is that I'm going to be far healthier at 78 and at 88 and at 98 because I found out how to support that. And I'm going to catch up with you, if I haven't already caught up with you. You're 35. As you apply all these things yourself, you're going to catch up with a 25-year-old, and I'm going to be right behind you.
Interesting,
because, yeah. Right? So it is no longer how old I am. It's how much have we spent our precious time applying definitive principles that are simple, effective, and affordable. And I'm not just talking about money, because time is spent 24 hours a day. And we talked earlier about compressing time, getting time into a more useful tool. Rather than that tool just wasting and drifting, it's focused in definitively. Our time is super useful, very valuable, and is maximized. Just like what you're doing now. Somebody can come on for 30 minutes and get a download of 2 decades of research and intel that's defined in a matter of 30 minutes. And we're seeing this now more and more, but it's the most important information. Meanwhile, all the propaganda and all the mind control stuff that is out there that we're not going to even pinpoint, we don't care. We are immune from it. So how immune are you from the onslaught of all of this mind control high technology? Because we talk about quantum upgrade. How about quantum downgrade? If people are being quantumly downgraded, they're going to be permeable. They're going to become subject to doing what they're told. Compliance, obedience, separation, right? You talked about the term Christ, okay? The term Christ, if you look it up in the Bible or any kind of different place, it is the anointing of, you're anointed with actual perfect knowledge, perfect wisdom. And you're able to see, you're connected to that perfect knowledge and perfect wisdom. Everything combined in that space around you is also imperfect knowledge and imperfect wisdom that is deceiving the nations. We're a nation, like you look back in the Second World War, nations rising up with the leader to rah, 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 the leader that's leading them to destruction. It's like, well, how did that happen? So yeah, it's super subtle, super seductive, and you cannot afford to be deceived.
Absolutely. Now, before we go into that, Ian, we know obviously this is your first interview back on my YouTube channel, and there's a lot of people that I've noticed from the comments that that they were wondering where I went, and I want you to explain the story, the time when sadly your brother passed away, and your brother was a healthcare professional, and you were told, I think you had 3 to 6 months to live, but you reversed. You didn't take no for an answer from what the mainstream doctors were telling you. You went and did your own research. You told your brother about this research. He did not agree with you. He would not listen to you, but you reversed. Here you are, I think 20 years later, 15, 20 years, 21 years later. But unfortunately, your brother is no longer with us.
Right.
And he was a doctor. And this is the power of doing your own research. And you're proof of that. Why don't you explain to the viewers a little bit about that story before we go into your 3 to-do routines that you're going to share with the viewers today?
Right. Yeah. So my brother was a really good example, and it was a very tragic example because he is 9 years older than me. He passed away at 61 years old of a brain tumor that came on like a freight train, and he was gone in 3 months. When I first got very ill, that at 21 years, I had about 36 months. You mentioned 3 to 6, but it was actually 36 months was the prognosis at that time to be able to deal with a tumor and heart disease and a problem I didn't know at the time was my liver that I found out in the process by learning. And I went to him and I told him I have to find something different than what's being offered in Toronto. They want to do surgery and pharmaceuticals, and I'm terrified because I watched my 2 uncles die when I was 20 years old. In 1 year after diagnosis, both had terminal cancer diagnosis, and they died 2 days apart. So that left this huge impact on me. I was like, why did that happen? They went to professionals that were supposed to help them deal with a health crisis. They were told you have to do this, this, and this, and then you're going to die. And they died just on time. And I told my brother about that. And he goes, well, what are you going to do? You're going to go to the alternative world? I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. All I know is there has to be something far superior to what's being offered to my uncles 26 years ago. And here is it my turn? He goes, well, you look just like your uncle, just like Uncle Don. You look just like him. And I did, very similar. And he said, you're genetically predisposed to having this happen. It's just the hand of cards you were dealt, and there's nothing you can do about it. You have to go to the institution who has all of the research, all of the double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized studies, all of the surgeries for a century now, right? This is nothing new. This has been around and it's being tested out. The American Medical Association, the Canadian Medical Association, they have all the data. They've spent hundreds of billions of dollars on double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized studies to prove what works and what doesn't work. and you have to stay in that realm. I said, but our uncle stayed in that realm. I thought 1978 was the dark ages, right? Compared to the 2004. And I kept telling him, it doesn't do me any good to hear that I'm genetically predisposed. There has to be a way to find out. Well, where are you going to go? Who are you going to do? They're all a bunch of snake oil salesmen. You got all these gurus, and they all say something different. I go, yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that that's what it is, but I still think there has to be a way. He goes, you're absolutely committing suicide. If you don't follow through with exactly what the doctors and specialists are saying to you in Toronto, you're basically a dead man. You're not going to get success. He said, I've had thousands of patients come through my clinic in all walks of life, from every culture, didn't matter the gender, all genetically predisposed. He had 11 doctors working in his clinic. So he had his own patients, plus he saw all these other ones. And he said, every one of them is all genetic predisposition. You get the person who's a health nut, dies at 36 years old of cancer. You got the guy who parties his face off and eats out of the dumpster, and he dies at 94. I go, okay, that's not helping me. I'm a sensitive person. I obviously have sensitivities. Something's very, very wrong with me. And I think it's me. That's the problem, because I don't know. Oh, don't blame yourself, and all that stuff that I was told. So he completely rejected it. I woke up in the middle of all that chaos, that category 5 hurricane, and it was all of together that. One morning I woke up and I realized, hey, there are people on this earth somewhere who have the highest level of knowledge in supporting the body to be naturally healthy. It was like this little download that came to me. I went, of course they exist. Okay. So I'm on a timeline. I can't find them because I don't even know where to start. What do I do? And so I asked, and I prayed out loud. I spoke out loud and I said, I am asking to be led. I'm not demanding it. Okay. I know that I don't know anything. And I'm asking to be led to people who do, who have done lifetimes of research into each category to find out why do I have all this stuff going on and how to remedy it. And what other potential things? I mean, look at the medical manuals. They're this thick, this big, and they're full of all the types of diseases you can get. Am I going to go and look at that? No. I just want to go and get a reset. And so very slowly, after I made that request, and I said I was willing to do whatever it took if I was shown something, it just happened real slow. So within 7 years, from 2004 to 2011, that took that much time for the tumor to dissolve itself out of my body through different protocols. My heart disease was gone in about 5.5 years. My liver problem was gone in about a little over 5.5 years. And then my brother got a brain tumor. And it didn't start as a brain tumor. It started as what they told him, a herpes simplex 1 virus that would show up in your lip as a cold sore in your mouth, went up into his upper left communication center in his brain and shut down all communications. 90% of the people who get that are dead within 48 hours because their whole body just shuts down and they go grand mal seizure, coma, they pass away because nothing is communicating. They were able to get the meds in the Johns Hopkins Hospital down in Panama City, where they rushed him to off of his yacht because he was down there ready to go sailing. And they were able to stabilize him. He was in intensive care for 3 weeks. He didn't die. He came home and he was back in Hamilton, Ontario, which is, a couple hours from here where I live. I had the exact stuff that deals with this herpes simplex virus. I drove there, had it with me, explained everything, told him, and here by now I'm showing up very healthy looking. We're almost 7 years later. That was in December 2010. And he totally turned me down on every single thing that I told him. He kept saying, where's your double-blind placebo-controlled randomized studies? Where are they? I'm not touching that stuff. I said, are you kidding? If I would have waited for those things, I would be dead already. Mm-hmm. I just simply did what I was shown from a natural. This cannot harm you. You could drink the whole bottle and you only need the tiniest little bit of this stuff. Oh, I'm not touching it. And so he was just adamant. And he only was having seizures for 30 seconds at a time, about 3 times a day at that point. That's how stabilized he was. And he just wouldn't take anything. And he went to my sister's place. She took care of him until he passed away. The occurrences of the seizures kept increasing for length of time and amount during the day until he was diagnosed on January the 2nd, 2011, of a glioblastoma multiforme level 4 terminal cancer in the brain. So they had to get him on steroids, get it shrunk down. They had to open him up, dig out a big chunk of his brain with a stupid tumor, put him through radiation for 6 weeks, which compromised him completely. He became like a young child. He still knew who he was and what was going on. And then he just suffered and died within a month after that. And it was this thing like, what on earth was that? Okay, he went to medical school. That's what that was. He was completely 100% conditioned, totally mind controlled to the allopathic world. And the allopathic world is actually very useful in many, many categories. But in my case, it had no usefulness to me because they were just going to go and try to cut it out, just like they cut the thing out of his brain and they weren't paying attention. And they didn't give him any alternatives other than what was medical, pharmaceutical. And medical and pharmaceutical helps people all day long with many different things because people are at a certain level. They're not into the natural healing space. They need help. And those people help them. But what I found out is the pharmaceutical and medical world, they extend death. We are here to extend life. Mm-hmm. So if they keep you alive longer and longer until you finally suffer so much and you die, I don't think that's very appealing, but they do that. So the average lifespan went from, the 60s up into the 70s, 75 years old is where it is now. But we don't care about that stuff because we're not in that realm anymore. We're in a different dimension. Even though we're physically here, we're dimensionally different. And my eyes got open with all these things. And I started to implement and put pieces and parts together that I never came up with, but I put them together. That's what I came up with. And found out that they're all synergistic. That your holistic being, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, domestically, financially, and environmentally are all dialed in when you have all the components in place and you're shielded from the poisons that are hitting everybody. It's so bad. Mm-hmm. And it's so good once you find out how to shield. Now I don't have to worry about it. I don't worry about how old I am because the longer I live, the better I get. So that was the major. I actually wish I could go back to that day in December and just be more adamant and say, Doug, come on, man, come on. Don't go down that road, please. You're so important. You're just having your grandchildren right now. Your daughters are needing you. You got to hang in here. But I didn't implore him enough. I felt like I didn't do a proper job when I talked to him. But it was just 100% blocked.
So sad. Yeah. How did you come up with Perfect Immune, Iodine, and Solaris? Because those are your top three. Why those?
Well, they slowly showed up, and they actually took many years. They didn't come overnight. Even when they showed up, I was looking at them, apprehending them, hearing all these things. But everybody says everything about everything. You don't know if it's validated or not because we're in the naturopathic world, right? And so you have anecdotal evidence and you can't make medical claims on anything. You can't tell somebody, well, this is going to do that because it did that for this person over here. No, there's no double blind. I mean, iodine is the most studied thing in the medical and natural world for any element. That's super studied. I found out about that. Then I realized you have to have it in the right form because there's many forms of iodine that are not as beneficial as the best form. So again, it went good, great, great, or greatest. And all I did was start testing it. I started using it when I finally got to the perfect form. That took from 2008 to 2020. I had to be shown all that. And once I did that, I watched my cognitive ability go up. That was the first thing I noticed because I didn't have any big health issues. They were dissolved. But all of a sudden, I had way more brain power within a couple of weeks. I was like, okay, that's like, wow, cool. Now, what else does it do? And then I found out all the mechanisms, how it works in the body with the thyroid and the immune system and all the different organs and goes in a certain form and converts to iodide. And so that showed up. And I just saw, because we are marketing directly to people, we're not selling through health food stores or through big distribution networks. We get instant feedback with tens of thousands of people throughout the last 10 years. And it's really hundreds of thousands of people, but at a time, tens of thousands. So we got to see what was actually happening with those people and went, okay, more validation, more validation. Now we can talk generally about this and let people know. And then you experience it when you consume it. So that's how these things showed up. Same with Solaris. I was shown that in 2016. It took 4 years of giving it out and letting people who I knew in my network put it to test. And then it proved itself. 2020, we rolled it out. And the Perfect Immune, that didn't show up until 2021. And that was a substance that allows your mucous membranes to have nice, clear, clean mucus, because your body produces 1.5 liters of mucus per day and it recirculates. If you get congested, say in your sinuses or your bronchioles, you're going to hack up a whole bunch of phlegm, right? Mucus, that your mucus is, hey, I got to get this stuff out. I got congested. I got too much stuff to deal with. You need to do a purge. And you know how good you feel after you have a big head cold and chest cold, right? And you cough it all up and you get it all gone. You feel like a new person. So it's a matter of getting the immune system up so you're always moving that garbage out on a regular basis, so you don't have those crisis moments of where you're down with a really bad cold and sore throat. And then so it's a synergistic dance between all three of them. They all work together and they build your immunity entirely. So we don't just think the immune system's one little thing. No, your entire body is an immune system. Your entire mind thinking has to have an immune system. If you have a low immune system in your body, it's going to affect your mental immune system. If you have heavy metal poisoning, microbial overloads, pathogenic stuff, yeast overgrowth, fungal infections, it's going to totally mess with your thinking. It's going to make you think wrong things. So it's holistic all the way through. And then you are emanating an immune system all around you. And when you show up, people notice there's something different. Like, what's with you? How do you, like, I'd like to learn about that. So then we can inspire people. And we're just out to inspire. We're not out to convince. We're not out to sell. We want to inspire people to use the intel for themselves to make intelligent decisions, that we can supply real validated information to them.
So I'm 35 years old and I will continue using these. Do you believe that I could significantly delay my biological age clock?
Oh, I know you can. Yeah, because it starts out with belief. But what I found out when I would believe in something that was shown to me with white papers and different, like the shiny objects, the stuff that was trending. Oh, you got to have this, and then they sell billions of dollars worth because you got to have it. But it turned out that was just a tiny key. It wasn't a master key. So, yeah, I know now. It went from belief to validation to knowledge. Now I know that I know that I know. Yes, 100%. And the longer you're on the earth, the more highly functional you are, the higher your quality of life becomes by simply applying these simple principles. The better you are valuable on this earth to serve people, and the better your life fulfillment and experience is going to be.
Absolutely. I think definitely we need to take responsibility of our healths, even when you're very well and you're fine. It's something you've got to keep you've check and balance your body constantly, because it can be very expensive otherwise if you don't do that from young. But Ian, thank you very much for sharing everything with us today. I'm going to leave the links to these below in the description so that the viewers can have a look as well for themselves. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Well, I think one of the big topics right now, and I think it's a really main topic, is the words you speak to yourself internally and the words you speak to yourself externally out loud. I am, and then I say something. I am extremely happy. I am perfectly healthy. None of this, I am, and then it's down, right? So your body is going to listen to you. You personally are going to manifest whatever you're speaking. And you create your own vibrational frequency and reality by what you think internally, speak to yourself internally, and what you say externally out loud. So getting that frequency aligned with perfect knowledge, getting that frequency aligned with that which benefits you and builds you up. Even if you're going through a downtime where you're being compromised or tested, that's okay, because the test is going to manifest the strength in you, because you're going to come forth even stronger. It's like there's suffering before joy. That's what we've seen. So encouraging yourself, encouraging others. If there's fear feelings in here, you have to replace that with courage, with words. Because if you get the wrong frequency coming at you, you could discourage yourself instead of encourage yourself. You could look at the world around you and go, it's getting worse all the time. Or you can look at the world around you and go, actually, it's getting better all the time, a lot better. So you can either have a terrible day today or a terrific day. It's your choice. It has nothing to do with circumstance.
Absolutely. Well, Ian, thank you so much. And we'll speak again very soon. You take care and God bless. Bye-bye.
Yep, that's your Nicholas. Bye.